All right, everyone. I'm obviously again Falados down here on the console. I have a whole lot to cover today, so I've already skipped the first level and solved the problem or the puzzle, and we will get to it. We'll want to apologize for what happened last time with me breaking the storytelling. Uh, Obviously, the storytelling is more important than the graphics, but last time I demoed, I was focused on the graphics. Storytelling has been dialed in, and patrons have actually been playing for the past week and gotten a really up have had a lot of really good players. A lot of bugs have been found and fixed. Uh, Special shout out to Sneaker, who has found and helped me fix the most bugs so far. Uh, but have a whole lot to demo for you versus where things were last week or last 2 weeks ago. Uh, Storytelling is back and fixed, which is good. Uh, the level generator is somewhere between 2 and 4x as powerful as it used to be. If you'll notice, we are on a different level now. This is the Cultus Amir Summon. Before it had been Cultus Amir Sacrifice. Have a whole bunch of quality of life things to show off, as well as the new level builder and auto mapping and a whole bunch of other things. So let's just dive into the dungeon and get started. Ooh. First room, right off the bat, we get some new fun things. Let me dispatch these cultists. And you're gonna die, so I'll just move on to you. And take care of this one. One of the things you'll notice is that tooltips have been fixed, so I can mouse over my HP and SP, and that all works as it's supposed to. And yes, you'll notice that the flames are flaming, and you have little loot bubbles above creatures that you have not yet looted. That is one of the new additions. How's it going, Zuko? Xanthia took a moment to catch her breath, her heart still pounding from the fight with the cultists. She looked down at the two bodies laying at her feet, their lifeless eyes staring at her. With a grim determination, she knelt down and began to search their belongings. The first cultist had a few possessions of value, just a handful of coins that jiggled softly in Xanthia's hand. She pocketed them and turned her attention to the second body. This one was carrying something heavier, and as she searched through the pockets, it fell to blah 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 blah. With a grunt of effort, she pulled the battered leather pouch. It was full of various odds and ends, some herbs, and she recognized used in dark rituals, and a small vial of black liquid that she dared not touch, and for a few more coins that clinked together. Little AI problem there. It said loot all versus loot one. Now I'm going to go loot the other one. Other thing you might have noticed is that there's a green background on the text that indicates that something positive happened in this interaction. In this case, we got loot, obviously. Xanthia stood over the bodies of the dead cultists, her eyes searching over their possessions for anything of value. She quickly rummaged through the pockets, finding only a handful of coin. Disappointed but not surprised, she moved on to the other body on the ground. This is one of the things that I need to fix, as loot is going to be replaced with loot all, or at least the option to loot all, which will make the AI integration a little bit easier. We've got, if you notice, this brazier is actually on fire with a nice little animated fire effect. And we have an altar with a desk. So we will see what happens. Xanthia's eyes fixated on the granite altar standing before her, the candles flickering eerily, casting shadows on the walls of the dimly lit room. She approached the altar and noticed a shallow basin within it. The basin was stained with dried blood, and Xanthia recoiled at the sight. She realized that this was not just a simple altar, but a place of sacrifice. She wondered how many innocent lives had been taken in the name of Mir, the Naga goddess. As she studied the basin, she saw something carved into the granite, an intricate symbol that symbolized that looked vaguely familiar. Xanthia instincts told her that this was more than just a sacrificial offer, but the first piece in a puzzle that needed to be solved to stop the cultist summoning ritual. Which is probably correct. Interacting. And hopefully OpenAI cooperates today. Xanthia reached out and touched the granite altar, her fingers brushing against the rough surface. As she did so, she noticed something strange, a small drop of blood on her fingertip. Thoughtfully, she rubbed it off, only to see another tiny droplet appear in its place. Puzzled, she repeated the actions, but again the same thing happened. Xanthia frowned, studying the altar more closely. She had heard of magical wards that could replenish themselves with a single drop of blood as tribute. Was this altar one of those? But why would the cultists need such an enchanted altar? Her mind raced with questions as she touched the surface again, feeling a prickling sensation on her skin. Xanthia knew that she needed to be cautious in this dungeon and make no mistakes while dealing with such powerful magic. And I will just go ahead and interact with the bookcase. But yes, the world is starting to come alive, Zuko, with animations now. Xanthia approached the desk, her eyes scanning every inch of it. She began to sift through the contents, finding nothing but blank parchment and quills. She opened a drawer and rifled through a handful of coins, and she pocketed them without hesitation. As she was about to close the drawer, her fingertips brushed against something hard and metallic. Cautiously, she reached back to retrieve a small key from the back of the drawer. It was old and rusted, but it looked like it might still work. Xanthia slipped the key into her pocket and stood up, ready to move on to the next item of interest in the room. She paused for a moment, contemplating whether or not to make any more examinations of the desk, but ultimately decided against it. There were greater dangers lurking in the dungeon than a dusty old piece of furniture. We will go ahead and examine the new type of brazier. Sorry if I'm down here looking. I'm looking at logs to see what's happening. Xanthia's eyes fixated on the unlit steel brazier, cold and unlit. The 3 unlit braziers seemed like a signal awaiting the right moment to set ablaze, but her attention was drawn to the small object hanging from the brazier, a striking stick attached to a chain. It swayed gently, as if beckoning her to take it. Xanthia's mind raced with the possibilities. Could this be the key to lighting the braziers and unlocking the door? Or was it another trap set by the cultists to lure her into a false sense of security? She took a step closer, her hand hovering over the striking stick. Weighing her options, she trusted her instincts, but caution urged her to tread carefully in the dark and foreboding dungeon. Let's go ahead and ignite. I don't want to get the Book of Mirror before you, Sneaker. You've been trying so hard to get it. Looks like we got a summon. Xanthia took a deep breath and made up her mind. She reached for the striking stitch attached to the chain and gave it a sharp tug, creating a spark that ignited the dry kindling inside the unlit steel brazier. Flames leaped up, engulfing the brazier and spreading warmth through the room. Suddenly, the flames grew more intense, their heat scorching Xanthia's face. The brazier roared to life, summoning forth a fire elemental from the depths of the underworld. The creature emerged from its brazier, its fiery body towering over Xanthia's small frame. She raised her weapons and prepared to fight, knowing that this was one battle she couldn't afford to lose. And I need to dispatch you notice that his HP is also working now as a tooltip. One of the things that Zuko pointed out to me is that fire elementals should largely be immune to Xanthia's fire magic, but they are not currently. And I will go ahead and loot. Xanthia approached, and it's just going to be coins, so no need to read that. We will examine this one. Interesting. Okay, we will ignite this one. I just want to set everything on fire. It's what fire wizards do, right? And as always, if you guys have questions about the game, feel free to ask, and I will glance over at the chat while OpenAI is loading on occasion. This brazier did nothing. Let's go ahead and interact and see if something happens. Nope, nothing. Because it's black. We should interact with this one too, just in case. All this is just the first room, or I guess the second room. Again, nothing interesting. So we will examine this one. But yes, shout out to both Zuko and Sneaker, who are both here watching the live stream. They have been playtesting very heavily for me and finding bugs and helping me make everything better. So very much appreciate both of you. And nothing of interest on that brazier either. There's plenty of light in this room now with 4 braziers going. And nothing. So all those braziers were duds. Oh, wait. Door unlocked. Somehow. We've got more braziers. And we've got a guard we've got to take down. And dead guard. And loot bubbles. The goal is to create an awesome player experience. That is the goal. Just coins. And we've got lots of braziers. Lots of braziers. I'm guessing Zuko wants me to try to get all the braziers down. I like the warmth of the braziers. Sneaker is spawning 6 to 9 particles 10 times a second, with the particles generally living about a second. Number of animation frames is dependent on the browser. It's updating as often as it feels like. Xanthia, you find yourself standing in front of a rusted iron door with a level puzzle consisting of 4 levers. Each lever is labeled with a symbol: a sun, a moon, a star, and a comet. A poem etched into the wall above the levers reads, "In the sky they dance and play, but pull them wrong and you'll delay. First the fiery sun must rise, followed by the moon's surprise. Then the star will light your way, and last the comet's grand display." Okay, I'm just gonna solve this my own way, because I have figured out an amazing algorithm to solve those puzzles. But I'm not going to reveal the secret. You guys will have to try to figure it out for yourself. Because I am semi-evil. Algorithm is not randomly clicking. Xanthia's fingers moved with precision as she manipulated the levers on the rusting iron door. She pulled them in the order dictated by the poem, starting with the sun, followed by the moon, star, and finally the comet. Each lever clicked into place with satisfying finality. As Xanthia stepped back from the door, there was a loud click and slowly slung open, the hinges creaking in protest at being disrupted after so many years of disuse. Xanthia prepared for the darkness beyond. her hand instinctively going to her weapons as she prepared herself for whatever lay ahead. The smell of dampness and decay wafted out of the room within, making her wrinkle her nose in disgust. Xanthia couldn't see well in the darkness, but she knew that this was just the beginning of her adventure. With a deep breath, she stepped through the threshold and into the unknown depths beyond. I guess I should start showing off one of the new features, which is the auto map. So it has now built me a nice little map of the area, and it's also automatically added some notes for me. So it's marked the entrance, it has marked the blood altar, and it has not found anything of interest in this room yet. If I want to add a note, I can very well add a note. Note here. And I can add the note, and you can see it's now present. And it'll remember. You can also change colors of the room to make things nice and pretty color coded if you so desire. And that's all very, very easy and automatic now, which I think is one of the fun features. We will go ahead and examine these. See if I should kick them over for Zuko or not. Although I probably should just kick them over for Zuko. Xanthia stood there, her gaze fixed upon the 3 golden braziers burning brightly in the room. She could feel the hum of energy emanating from them, almost as like a song that she could hear. As she studied them, she noticed that each brazier had a small rune etched in its base, identical to the one she had seen on the altar of blood. A thought crossed through her mind. Could 3 braziers be the key to unlocking the altar? She knew that the cultists were not foolish enough to leave their most sacred relic unguarded. And so it was likely that there was some sort of hidden mechanism or puzzle that needed to be solved. Xanthia thought back to her training as assassin and fire wizard and began to focus her mind. She allowed her senses to expand, feeling for any hidden energies or enchantments that might be at play. As she did so, she realized a faint shimmering in the air surrounding each brazier, almost like heat haze. That was it. She knew that she needed to activate each brazier in a specific sequence to unlock the altar. But what was the sequence? Xanthia took a deep breath and began to study the braziers once more, searching for any clues and hints that might reveal their true purpose. So I'm guessing that this brazier's probably important. Just a guess. I think the auto mapping is one of the best features that I've written in this past 2-week sprint, or whatever you want to consider it. The expanded level building is pretty fantastic too, and obviously fixing the AI storytelling was also super important. So a lot has been accomplished in this 2 weeks. Xanthia reached out and touched one of the golden braziers, feeling the warmth of the flame on her skin. Suddenly, the humming energy emanating from the brazier intensified, and the flame flickered before going out completely. Xanthia's heart skipped a beat as she withdrew her hand, unsure what had just happened. She looked around the room, but nothing else seemed to have changed. The other braziers still burned brightly, casting warm light around the chamber. It was only the one that she had touched that had gone dark. Xanthia frowned, trying to make sense of what had just occurred. Had she done something wrong? Was this some sort of trap? She hesitated for a moment, unsure what to do next. Gathering her courage, Xanthia stepped forward and touched another brazier, this time the energy. So, which brazier shall we touch, Xanthia? Which one? Xanthia fixated her gaze on the golden brazier in the center of the room. The flames danced and flickered, casting the warm light. To her heart's enchantment, she could feel the skin prickling in response. As she stared at the brazier, she noticed small sparks bursting out from the flames, crackling with energy, the sound soothing, and Xanthia finds herself enchanted by the hypnotic dance of the fire. She takes a deep breath and lets her mind clear, focusing only on the brazier before her. The light and warmth start to fill her senses, making her feel alive and energized. It's as if the brazier has a life of its own. And Xanthia can't help but wonder what type of magic is responsible for creating such a mesmerizing display. So that one didn't seem particularly interesting. I have a feeling that one's going to summon a Shadow Hound. Xanthia stood in front of the golden brazier, her eyes fixated on the flickering flames that danced within it. The hum of energy emanating from it was almost palpable, and she could feel a faint tingle in her fingers as she reached out to touch it. As she studied the brazier, she couldn't help but feel there was something more to it than meets the eye. It's almost as if it was part of a larger sequence, a puzzle waiting to be solved. That's enough for me. I'm going to interact with this one. And if you really want me to, Zuko, I will interact with the other one. Just let me know. Xanthi gently extended her hand towards the golden brazier, her fingers brushing up against the metal surface. As she made contact, the flames that had been burning brightly within it suddenly snuffed out, leaving the room in complete darkness. For a moment, Xanthia stood frozen in place, unsure what to do. She couldn't help but feel a sense of unease wash over her, as if she had done something terribly wrong. As she waited in the darkness, her eyes slowly began to adjust, and she could make out the faint outlines of objects around her. Then, just as suddenly it has gone out, the flames within the brazier reignited and burst into a bright light. Oh, AI, they are out. You can even see in the room, out. Ooh, we got a secret door. I don't know if we've ever seen one of those on a live stream before. But I will go ahead and interact with this brazier just in case. I wouldn't say they're infinite HP. I think I've got like an 87% restore. Yeah, 87% restore. Xanthia reaches out. Yep, we got a Shadow Hound. Good old Shadow Hounds. At least it's a Shadow Hound tail for us. Oh, you're just going to stand there and let me pick you off? Really, Mr. Shadow Hound? Are you going to be that dumb? Alright, there's a bug. Pathing issues. Good times. Hey, loot bubbles! Well, there's a bug to note. I think that's something that Sneaker and Zuko haven't found yet because they like to play range characters. So it's a good thing I play a melee character. So we will go through the secret door. Whoa! I'm guessing that was a mistake. Whew. I should probably drink a pot. Why, cultists? Why are you after me? What have I ever done to you? And double that. And now there's lots of loot bubbles. I'm gonna save off looting everything just because it takes forever. So you will have to endure the loot bubbles until I create loot all. Xanthi approached the fountain, mesmerized by the pure running water. She reached out to touch it, but hesitated at the last second. Something seemed off. She couldn't quite put her finger on it, but she felt an inexplicable ease in the pit of her stomach. As she stood there, lost in thought, a whisper carried on the breeze caught her attention. It was a faint, barely audible, but it was there. It spoke in secrets and powers of hidden knowledge waiting to be uncovered. Xanthia shook her head to clear her thoughts. She couldn't afford to be distracted by whispers and illusions, not in this place. She took a step back from the fountain and scanned the room. She needed to focus on finding a way through the ornate silver doors on the east wall. Whatever secrets lay beyond them could be the key to stopping the cultist summoning ritual once and for all. Well, I'm going to go ahead and interact anyway. Xanthi approached the fountain, her hand outstretched to touch the surface of the water. As her fingers brushed against the cool liquid, she felt a wave of peace and tranquility wash over her. The water was enchanted, she realized, and it radiated a calming energy that seemed to permeate her entire body. For a moment, Xanthia forgot about the dangers of the dungeon and the urgent task at hand. She closed her eyes and let herself be enveloped by the serenity of the moment. It was as if all her worries and fears had been washed away by the pure water. But as she opened her eyes and took a step back from the fountain, Xanthia quickly remembered where she was and what she needed to do. She couldn't afford to lose focus now, not when so much was at stake. With a deep breath, she steeled her resolve and continued her search through the dungeon. And we've got 3 doors. I'll go ahead and examine. Although I probably should have drank a pot beforehand, because I'm at half health. Oh, that's my spell. 47%. Xanthia stood before the locked doors, her gaze fixated on the silver ornate designs and interlacing serpents. The words etched above each door seemed to hold a certain weight and significance, hitting at the secret dangers that lay beyond them. The center door was marked with lithe, suggesting agility and grace. The left door read Argoth, invoking images of strength and power. Finally, the right door was marked with Proloth, hinting at cunning and intellect. Xanthia knew that each path would lead to different challenges, and she couldn't help but wonder which one held the answer to stopping the cultist summoning ritual. Her hand instinctively touched the hilt of her legendary scimitar, ready for whatever lay ahead. And if we look at our auto map, we will notice that it has already noted that we have a Fountain of Purity and 3 doors. 3 silver doors, Argoth, Lithe, and Proloth. So it is making good notes for us already. So we will continue exploring the dungeon. Ooh, I don't know if we've ever seen that tapestry on a live stream before. I'm aware that it takes a while to loot everything, which is why loot all is actually at the top of my to-do list right now. Xanthia stands before the tapestry of the underworld, her eyes transfixed on the horrific scenes depicted upon it. She feels a shiver run down her spine as she takes in the twisted forms of the demons and tortured souls. The air around her feels heavy and oppressive, as if the very presence of the tapestry is suffocating. As she looks closer, Xanthia notices that some of the figures in the tapestry seem to be writhing in pain, their forms twisted and contorting as if they are still alive. She can't help but wonder if these are representation of real people who have suffered in the hands of the cultist Amir. Despite the horrors before her, Xanthia can't seem to look away from the tapestry. It's as if she's drawn into it and unable to break its hold over her. She can feel her heart pounding in her chest and her palms growing slick with sweat. For a long moment, Xanthia simply stands there, staring at the tapestry of the underworld. It seems to hold some kind of terrible power over her, and she can't shake the feeling that she's staring into the very depths of hell itself. I think I've got to interact with that one. Have you interacted with a lot of Tapestry Sneaker in your mini playthroughs? Xanthia can't help but reach out to touch the tapestry of the underworld. Her fingers brush against the rough fabric, and she can feel a chill run through them. The city depicted upon it seems to come alive beneath her touch. The twisted forms of demons and tortured souls writhe and twist in agony. She can't help but wonder at the craftsmanship that went into creating such a horrific work of art. The details are incredible, down to the smallest wrinkle on a demon's face or the slightest movement of a hapless soul. Despite the horrors before her, Xanthia can't pull herself away, her fingers tracing over the tapestry, following the contours of the twisted forms as she's trying to understand their pain. The chill that runs through her body begins to dissipate, replaced by the strange warmth that seems to emanate from the tapestry itself. For a long moment, Xanthia simply stands there, her fingers still pressing against the tapestry of the underworld. It seems to hold some kind of terrible power over her, and she's not sure if she should be drawn closer or flee in terror. I don't know. Ooh, we've got a stone door. Dun, 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 dun. But the storytelling is much, much better now. not as broken as last time. Xanthia stands in front of an ornate stone door on the east wall, her eyes fixated on the 3 slots filled. Each slot holds a ruined stone label Lithe, Argoth, and Proloth. She studies the carvings above each slot, but something seems off. The letters are backwards, as if viewed in a mirror. In fact, everything in the carving of the door appears to be as if it's a mirror image of reality. Xanthia furrows her brow in concentration, trying to make sense of the reverse letters. She reaches out to touch the door, but quickly pulls her hand back, as if burned. The magic pulsating from the door is palpable, and it's clear that unlocking or picking the lock would be unwise. Instead, Xanthia takes a few steps back and surveys the rest of the room. The tapestry on the wall sends shivers down her spine, and the golden brazier flickers ominously. She glances at the fountain of purity and hope, but decides against making an offering. Returning her attention to the ornate door, Xanthia takes a deep breath and prepares herself for whatever lays beyond. She knows that with her skills and experience, she can overcome any obstacle, but this door poses unique challenges that will require all of her wits and cunning to solve. And we can probably not get through that door yet. We'll go ahead and examine. Have you actually encountered Mir yet, Sneaker? Xanthia stares intensely at the golden brazier, captivated. Yeah. Interact. Even though I'm at half health. It's going to be a shadow hound. I can feel it. Nope. She reaches out and touches the heat emanating from the fire prickles her skin, but she refuses to back down. The metal of the brazier is warm to the touch, but not scorching, and she feels a slight tingle travel up her arm. She makes contact with the surface. Suddenly, images flash through her mind, fleeting glimpses of faces, places, and events that she cannot quite make sense of. She pulls her hand back quickly, realizing that the brazier is somehow connected to her mind and memories. She wonders what kind of power lies within this object and what secrets it holds about the cultist's true intention. For now, she decides to keep her distance, knowing that any further contact could be dangerous. Dun dun dun. I'll go ahead and interact just to make sure. Nothing, because it's black. We can go through this door. How's our map looking? Lots of locked doors right now, which isn't a bad thing. Ooh, we've got a portrait of Mir. Dun dun dun. Well, I get an encounter with Mir. Xanthia approached the fountain cautiously, her eyes fixated on the black liquid that filled the pool. It smelled vile, as if it had been corrupted by some dark magic. She couldn't help but feel a sense of unease emanating from it. As she stood there, lost in thought, her mind suddenly recalled the previous discovery she had made in the dungeon, the altar of blood and the fountain of purity and hope. She couldn't help but wonder if this was the final piece of the puzzle, the third item in a sequence that could help her stop the cultist summoning ritual. Xanthia knew she had to act quickly, but for now she could only stand here and look at the corrupted fountain, trying to decipher its secrets. Well, if that's not a hint, I don't know what is. At least it's pretty good at giving hints. Xanthia hesitated before touching the surface of the black liquid, but she knew that she must try. As her fingertips made contact with the liquid, she felt a sudden jolt of energy radiate from it. She could feel a sense of hopelessness and malice emanating from the pool. It was as if the liquid had been enchanted with dark magic, and it was trying to sap her strength and leave her feeling powerless. Despite the overwhelming feeling of despair that was creeping up on her, Xanthia pushed back against it with all of her might. She drew her inner reserves of strength and willpower, refusing to let the dark enchantment overpower her. After a few moments, she withdrew her hand from the pool, feeling more confident in her abilities than ever before. Interesting. We will see if anything interesting happens with the mirror portrait. Dun 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 dun. Xanthia approached the portrait with a sense of trepidation. It was a haunting depiction of the Naga goddess, her long snake body coiled around a throne as she looked down upon her followers with an unfeeling gaze. As she reached out to touch the painting, Xanthia felt a chill run down her spine. She could sense the dark power that emanated from it, an aura that seemed to fill the room with and suffocate her. But as she laid her fingers on the canvas, something unexpected happened. The surface of the painting seemed to shift and writhe under her touch, and suddenly she was transported into a different realm. She found herself standing in a vast underground chamber surrounded by twisted forms of Mir's worshippers. And there, at the center of it all, the Naga goddess herself, looking down at her with those unblinking eyes. Xanthia could sense that this was no illusion. She was truly standing before Mir, face to face with the very embodiment of evil. And as she gazed into those soulless eyes, she knew that her task had never been more urgent. She had to stop the summoning before it was too late. I agree, we need to stop the summoning. Ooh, we can open this door straight away. Although I could also solve the puzzle. So should I keep exploring the dungeon or open the 3 doors? I will let you guys decide as I open this door. Xanthia carefully inserted the key into the lock of the rusting iron door on the west wall. She turns the key slowly, hearing the tumblers click into place, and with a soft click, the lock releases, and she hears the sound of metal scraping against metal as the door slowly creaks open. Her heart beats faster as she peers into the darkness beyond. She raises her legendary scimitar and readies herself for whatever lay ahead. As she steps through the door, she sees a long hallway stretch out before her, lit only by a few flickering torches along the walls. The air is damp and musty, and Xanthia can smell the scent of decay and rot. She takes a deep breath and steadies herself before stepping towards her footsteps echoing on the quiet corridor. As she walks down the hallway, she sees several doors lining the walls, some of them locked while others not. Alright, we'll just keep exploring then. Whoa, cultists! Lots of cultists. Lots and lots of cultists. Why are there so many cultists? I guess I am in their lair. Oops, I just died. Not paying attention. So many dots on me. So many dots. More dots. More dots. And there were 6 whole dots on me. And I was not paying attention. In this case, I think it was less dots. Xanthia enters the dark dungeon, wielding her legendary weapons with confidence. As she approaches the shrine of Mir, 2 cultists appear from the shadows. The first attack lunges at her with a dagger, but Xanthia deftly dodges and retaliates with a fiery spell. However, her focus on the first attacker leaves her open for the second cultist strike from behind. The blow is fatal, and Xanthia falls to the ground, her legendary weapons clattering beside her. The cultists take her body to offer as a sacrifice to their goddess. Xanthia gasped for breath as she awoke in the dark dungeon, her heart pounding in her chest. She looked around and saw that she was back at the entrance, her legendary weapons lying by her side. A surge of confidence and relief washed over her as she realized that she had come back to life. Quickly standing up, Xanthia checked her leather armor and weapons, making sure everything was in order. She couldn't afford to make the same mistake twice. With renewed determination, she set out once again, determined to stop the cultists and their summoning ritual. As she entered the Shrine of Mir once again, Xanthia felt a sense of deja vu wash over her. She could see the 2 cultists lurking in the shadows, waiting to strike, but this time Xanthia was ready for them. With a fierce battle cry, she charged forward. Oh, AI. And there's another bug. All those loot bubbles are back. I will have to fix this. But, good thing. And these braziers are all out now again. I can't reignite them. But hey, always fun to find things. We were down here, weren't we? Yep. We were over here. And that cultist is dead now. But good thing I'm finding bugs, so that's the second bug of the day. Pathing issues and other funness. Things that shouldn't reset are resetting. But as I always say, no better way to find bugs in your stuff than demo it to people. Oof. I will drink a pot. Dead. All right. Examine. Yep. Xanthia's eyes were fixed on the study word in chest, her mind racing with possibilities of what it could contain. The golden light from the brazier cast flickering shadows across its surface, making it seemed as though the chest was moving slightly. Xanthia's grip tightened on her weapon as she tried to steady her breathing. She knew that opening the chest would be dangerous, but that the temptation to uncover what secrets lay within, yes. I'm pretty sure this is a mimic, so I will leave it be. Ooh, it's a desk. And a guard. I will take them both out. Yay. Interact with the desk. Yes, the cultists are killing me. Alright, here, once again, she is satisfied, but she began to rummage through the drawers of the desk. The first few were empty, but as she opened the third, she saw a flash of metal catch her eye. After reaching in, she picked up a handful of coins, tucking them away into her pouch before turning attention back to the desk. She opened another drawer, but it was filled with only parchments and scrolls. Xanthia paused for a moment, considering whether or not to take them with her, but ultimately decided to leave them behind. As she opened the final drawer, her eyes landed on a small key nestled among the items inside. Yay, key! Have not even seen a bookcase yet. Ooh, there's a mirror, though. I could show off another feature. Just a brazier, I think. Oh. Nope, that's a one to note for later. So this brazier did not have a stick attached to it like most of the other braziers. Neither did this one, so I can ignite those. So those are mysterious. I'm going to go ahead and mark this room as orange to remind myself. But now, for the new feature. I guess it's a subset of the new feature of auto mapping. Interact. As Xanthia's fingers brushed the cool surface of the ornate silver mirror with silver borders to the reflection to determine her face wavers, as if something strange flickers in the glass. She hesitates for a moment and leans closer, peering intently at an image before her, her sharp eyes picking at the details of a different room, one that she hasn't yet explored. The mirror shows the room with the stone walls covered in moss and vines creeping along the floor. In the center of the room, there's a pedestal with a glowing crystal resting on its top. Xanthia's heart quickens as she realizes that this must be where the cultists are keeping the summoning crystal that Queen Talia sent her to destroy. Without taking her eyes off the image, Xanthia reached into her pack and pulls out a small vial of blood. She holds it into the mirror, hoping that this will be enough to activate whatever magic is at work here. As she watches the reflection shift once again, this time showing her own face, she steps through the archway to the north wall. Well, we will go ahead and step into the mirror. Because now I can show off something, or at least I hope I can show off something. with the auto mapping. Nope, didn't even port me anywhere. It's a broken mirror. And we have the key to unlock this one. Do 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 do. Xanthia stood with her eye in the keyhole, focused on the intricate designing. She took a deep breath and slid the key into lock, turning it with ease. The door unlocked with a soft click, and she pushed it open slowly, revealing whatever lay beyond. As the door creaked open, Xanthia could see the room beyond was a large, dimly lit chamber. She peered inside, her eyes scanning the room for any signs of danger. She could see that the room was empty, save for a few pieces of furniture scattered about. Xanthia stepped inside. Yes, we will step inside then. Ooh. We've got something new that I don't think's been shown on the live stream yet. Dun 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 dun. Xanthia stood motionless, staring at the statue of Lithe, the strong and powerful king. Her eyes were drawn to his feet, where she noticed an empty slot carved into his foot. She couldn't help but wonder what could fit into the slot and why it had been left empty. As she stared, she felt a faint tug in the back of her mind, as if something was trying to communicate with her. Suddenly, a memory flashed before her eyes. Something she remembered seeing a similar slot on a stone altar she had come across earlier in the dungeon. It had been empty as well. She also recalled finding a strange ruined stone with ancient markings on it. Something about the way the markings glowed made her think it was not just an ordinary statue. Xanthia realized that there was something special about this statue of Lithe, and that it was not just a decorative piece. She had to find out what belonged in the slot carved into the boot and figure out how it was connected to the other items she had discovered in the dungeon. The answer might hold the key to stopping the cultists of Mir and their demonic summoning rituals once and for all. All right, we will examine. Because, that's the only way to light these things on fire. Xanthia stands in front of the unlit steel brazier, her gaze fixed on the cold and empty vessel. She has seen many braziers before, but there is something peculiar about this one. As she looks closer, her keen eyes notice a striking stick attached to a chain hanging from the brazier. It seems out of place. Why would a cold and unlit brazier need a striking stick? She knows better than to dismiss anything in this dungeon as insignificant, as her gut tells her that there is more to this brazier than meets the eye. She remembers that one other item she discovered, the altar of blood, the fountain of purity and hope, and the fountain of corruption and malice. The pieces starting to click together. In her mind, as she realizes that this brazier might be the key to unlocking something else in this cursed dungeon. But what could it be? She needs to keep exploring and gathering more clues to solve the puzzle of the cultists of Mir's dungeon. No. Dun 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 dun. I think the storytelling has definitely gone up a notch, certainly from last time, and I even think from Demo 1. When it wasn't broken. So this one also has a striking stick. And does this one? Dun, dun, dun. Xanthia gazed at the unlit brazier, her mind racing at the possibilities of what it could mean. She had seen similar braziers in her travels, often used in rituals and sacrifice to appease deities. As she approached the brazier, she noticed something peculiar hanging from it, a striking stick attached to the chain. Xanthia Keen's observations skills immediately picked up on the significance of the small detail. It was not just an ordinary brazier, but an important piece of a sequence that would lead her closer to stopping the summons. So let's ignite this one. And die to the fire elemental. Because we can. Xanthia took the striking stick and struck it against the unlit steel brazier in a swift, fluid motion. A spark ignited, and soon the brazier roared to life with a blaze of orange flames. The heat emanating from the brazier was intense, and Xanthia felt her skin growing warm under its glow. As the flames danced and flickered, she couldn't help but wonder what the simple act of lighting the brazier meant in the grand scheme of things. What other secrets lay hidden within this dungeon, waiting to be uncovered? For now, she was focused on the task at hand and watched the flames burning bright, casting eerie shadows on the surrounding walls. The sound of crackling flames filled her ears, drowning out all the other noise in the dungeon. Xanthia stood there for a moment longer, taking in the sights before her, before turning to move on with her quest. We will ignite this one. Dun, dun, dun. Ooh, door opened. Xanthia takes a deep breath and reaches for the striking stick hanging from the unlit steel brazier. She strikes the flint against the steel, causing a spark to ignite the kindling inside. The brazier roars to life, flames dancing and flickering inside its metal walls. As the fire grows, Xanthia notices a faint grinding sound from the east wall of the room. She looks around, trying to identify the source of the noise, but nothing seems out of place. Her instincts tell her that this brazier and its sudden ignition might have triggered something else in the dungeon, perhaps revealing a hidden path or unlocking a secret door. She approaches the brazier, cautiously studying for any signs of change, but everything appears to be as it was before she lit the fire. Xanthia realizes that she needs to keep her guard up and stay alert. Hey, a secret door. I like secret doors. Woo! I think I stepped into the wrong room. Oh boy. Must remember to watch health. Whew. Oh, these guys are not hitting very hard at all. Even though I've got a bunch of dots up. They seem to go down very, very easily. So, maybe not as scary as initially thought. Goodbye, my cultist friends. It's lots of loot bubbles. And a portrait of Mir. We will interact with it. Lots of loot bubbles. Xanthia approached the portrait of Mir with caution, her eyes scanning the details of the painting. The Naga's features were strikingly beautiful, with the creature so fearsome. Yeah. Nothing interesting happened. I keep hoping that something interesting will happen. We will go ahead and ignite this guy. Dun, 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 dun. Xanthia takes a deep breath and strikes the unlit brazier with a striking stick. The room is filled with a loud roar as the brazier ignites into life. Flickering flames lick up and cast an eerie shadowy glow around the. Suddenly there is a deafening roar and a fire elemental appears before her. Yeah, I've got to kill the fire elemental now. Dun, dun. Goodbye, Mr. Fire Elemental. Hey, pot. And I will interact just to see. Nothing exciting, I don't believe. Xanthia approached the steel brazier burning brightly. She reaches out to touch it. Lightly, ready to step back at the slightest hint of danger, but nothing interesting happens. The metal is warm to the touch, but not uncomfortably so, and the flames dance merrily inside the brazier. Xanthia stands there for a moment, lost in thought, wondering if there's something she's missing. She can't shake the feeling that there's more to this brazier than meets the eye, but as she stands there, nothing out of the ordinary happens, and she realizes maybe it was just her imagination playing tricks on her. With a shrug, she turns away from the brazier and continues on her journey. Okay, where haven't we gone in this amazing dungeon? We have not gone that way, and that's the only way we can go, unless I've missed another secret door, which I don't believe I have. So we can go this way. Oof, guards. Burn, 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 I say, and now bleed. And more loot bubbles, and we've got another statue. Good old statues. And while we're waiting, don't forget to push that like button. It definitely helps out. And if you have not subscribed yet, go ahead and subscribe, because those things really do help. Xanthi approached the statue of Argoth with the furrowed brow, studying the gentle expression chiseled into the stone. The priest's hands were folded in front of him, but something seemed to be missing. Xanthi squinted, noticing a subtle carving into the empty slot nestled between his palms. As she peered closer, Xanthia felt a familiar tingle in the back of her mind. She couldn't quite place it, but she knew that this was somehow connected to her mission in the dungeon. Suddenly she remembered the words of Queen Talia. You must seek out the 3 items in sequence, Xanthia. Only then can you stop the cultists of Mir's nefarious plans. The statue and its missing slot were clearly part of the sequence. But what came before and after? Xanthia pondered this as she continued her explorations into the dungeon. So, cannot open that door. Cannot open that door. Or maybe I can. Who knows? Xanthia stands at the center of the room, her eyes fixated on the unlit steel brazier, its cold metal surface gleaming dully in the light flickering through the archway. Her gaze lingers on the striking stick dangling from its chain. Yeah, we will go ahead and ignite. See what happens. Shadowhound! Because Shadowhounds are amazing. Xanthi takes a deep breath and reaches out and grasps the striking stick. She hesitates for a moment, her fingers hovering over the rough surface of the flint. Then, with a flick of her wrist, she strikes the flint against the stick. A spark ignites as she blows gently on it, coaxing the flame to life. The small flame dances on the tip of the stick, casting flickering shadows on the wall. She approaches the unlit steel brazier and touches the tip of the stick to the surface. The brazier roars to life, flames surging upwards in a bright orange blaze. Xanthia steps back, startled by the sudden burst of heat. As she watches, a strange shape begins to form in the brazier. It grows larger and larger until finally a fire elemental stands before her, its eyes blazing with fury. Hello, Mr. Fire Elemental. Do you really want me to kill you? Is that why you came out? And pot. And we will go ahead and interact. Because maybe it has something of interest. Maybe. Chat is quiet tonight. No questions about the game. New level designs. Xanthia approached the steel brazier that burns brightly. The heat emanating from it is intense. She reaches out to touch the surface with her fingertips, curious about the texture of the metal. The heat is almost too much for her to bear, but she grits her teeth and presses on. She feels the rough surface of the brazier beneath her fingers, but nothing interesting happens. No insights or revelations come to her mind. She takes a step back, somewhat disappointed that she was not able to uncover any new information or secrets within the dungeon. However, she knows that she must remain vigilant and continue her search for clues if she hopes to complete her mission and stop the cultists of Mir. Yay. This is the Dungeon of Braziers, apparently. There have been so many of them. So many. Noticing intricate patterns. her gaze. Striking stick as normal. We will ignite. Because we can. Just to see pretty fire. Xanthia stood before the... She reached out to touch, pull it out. Flint. The first few attempts were unsuccessful, but on the third strike, a small flame burst forth, and she quickly blew it to keep it alive. She approached the brazier and gently blew on the embers, causing them to grow into a steady flame. Suddenly, the brazier roared to life, sending flames leaping upwards towards the heavy oaken door's lock. Xanthia quickly backed away, startled by the sudden burst of heat. As the flames danced and crackled in the brazier, she couldn't help but wonder what other secrets this dungeon held. Did it unlocked the door for me? Wow, that's surprising. I'm pretty sure that door was locked before. I don't think we've been that way. That was a black one. We haven't been that way, right? Nope, that was unlocked by me lighting the brazier. Interesting. Ah! Why so many cultists today? That's a lot of dots, too. So many dots. I might be able to make it another round, but we'll drink just to be safe. Loot bubbles! I also like the loot bubbles. I like the loot bubbles. So these simple things in life that please me, I guess. Xanthia's gaze was locked onto the sturdy wooden chest, barely blinking as she watched it intently. The faint light illuminating the room seemed to make the chest move ever so slightly, causing her heart to race with anticipation. She knew that this chest contained something important, something that she had to... Okay, if you think that way, I'm going to open it and get the... mimic. Because I'm pretty sure it's moving because it's a mimic. Yep, it's a mimic. I knew you were a mimic. Should have left the chest be. But nope. I can't remember what the inspiration was, Sneaker, which I know is a cop-out, but the World of Vagabond's Quest was actually written when I was in college. I would have to go rummage through my notes to actually figure out their origin. Uh-oh. Guards. And I'm at half health. This could go poorly. I think I'm okay. I think I am okay. Whew. This might be the dungeon of portraits of mirror and braziers. The world is full of a lot of these minor deities like Mir, which they think of themselves as gods, but they're not actually gods. Well, I guess I should have read the examine of the lies or the Proloth statue. Ugh, words hard, English difficult. No, nothing interesting happened with the painting. Xanthia's gaze lingered on the statue of Proloth, particularly on the empty slot carved into the folds of his robe. She couldn't shake off the feeling that this is meant for something important, something that could aid her in her quest to stop the cultists of Mir. As she studied the statue, she noticed a faint glow emanating from deep within the cave. She knew it was a sign, a hint of sorts, leading leading her towards the next step in her journey. But what was it? Xanthia felt a sense of urgency. She had to find her way out of the find out bleh. She had to find out what the glow meant and where it was coming from. She had to come too far to give up now. The fate of the kingdom rested on her shoulders, and she could not fail. All right, so we have found all 3 statues. So we have found a Prolos statue, an Argos statue, and there's the Lie statue. And I think we found the altar, Fountain of Malice, and the Fountain of Purity. Which means we only have that door to go through. Interesting. Can we get through that door? We certainly can. And it's another portrait of Mir. I'm guessing it really wants me to interact with Mir on a live stream. Maybe that's just a hunch. Maybe that's just a hunch. And maybe I should drink some water. Xanthia takes a deep breath and reaches for the striking stick hanging from the unlit steel brazier. With a quick flick of her wrist, she strikes the stick against the brazier, sending sparks flying. The brazier roars to life, flames dancing and flickering inside its steel walls. But as the flames grow higher and hotter, Xanthia realizes with horror that she has summoned a fire elemental. It rises from the flames, its fiery body towering over her. She can feel the intense heat emanating from its body, threatening to consume her. Xanthia draws her legendary longsword and legendary scimitar, readying herself for battle. The fire elemental lets out a deafening roar, and with a fierce determination, Xanthia charges forward, her blades ready to strike. Yep, that's Xanthia for you. Never backing down. Just facing everything headlong. Consequences don't matter. Alright, that should do you, Mr. Fire Elemental. I will go ahead and interact just to be safe. Xanthia hesitated a moment before reaching out to touch the steel brazier, burning brightly, her fingers brushing against the hot metal, feeling the intense heat emanating from it. However, nothing interesting happens. The brazier does not react or change in any way, and Xanthia withdraws her hand, feeling slightly disappointed. And there's an unlit one. And will this be the mirror portrait that does something interesting? Fingers crossed. It did. As Xanthia's fingers lightly brushed against the portrait of Mir, the painting suddenly flickered to life, gaining a new level of depth and realism. The image of the Naga goddess seemed to come alive, her eyes glowing with a sinister light, and her scales gleaming in the dim light of the dungeon. The whispers of chant began to echo from the painting, growing louder by the second until it filled the entire room with an eerie melody. Xanthia felt a cold shiver run down her spine as she realized that this was no ordinary painting. It was a portrait of Mir's underworld. She quickly stepped back, realizing that she had stumbled upon something far more dangerous than she anticipated. With a deep breath, she steeled herself for what lay ahead, knowing that she had to stop the cultist summoning before the ritual was too late. Fun. I guess I'm going to create a poll if I can figure out how to do that. Start a poll. Should I reach into the painting? Yes, no. Ask my community. There you go. There's a poll. So I can reach in and I will do what you guys tell me. And now the poll is 50-50. So until somebody breaks that tie, I will go on. Ooh, we've got a crazed cultist at least. We can talk to him. I'm not even sure if there's another person or if only two people are here. Xanthia, Queen's birdie in the dungeon. What do you want? Your head on a pike. Ha ha ha, mirror. Xanthia wants to play a game with me. Do you feel lucky, Xanthia? You already flipped to hostile, so yes, apparently I'm feeling very lucky. That was the quickest conversation with the crazed cultist ever. And he's gone. And I'm guessing that's the final door. It is. We will interact with the bookcase. Xanthia quickly approached the ornate desk that she carefully reached open the drawers for any clues or useful items. She opened the fourth drawer. Her eyes widened in surprise as she found a small pile of coins. Xanthia quickly counted them and found that they were totaling 20 silver coins. Hey, why is it only 5 then? And 2 gold coins. I didn't get any gold coins. She smiled to herself, knowing that any extra bit of currency helps. As she continued her search to the desk, her fingers brushing on something hard and metallic, she reached into the drawers and pulled out a small key. Yay, key. Keys are good. Why don't you talk to the crazed cultists, Sneaker? Or have you just encountered them so often that the NPC conversation with them no longer interests you? Still 50-50. Oh, can't interact. Interesting. Okay, we have, I believe, 3 doors that we can't get through. And that is it. And I'm guessing this key is for that locked door. Okay, which puzzle do you want me to solve first? End poll. We will just go have our encounter with Mir. Because I'm going to take the tie as... I'm going to break the tie and vote for I want to interact with Mir. Because I think it'll be fun. Xanthia's hand trembles slightly as she reaches into the portrait of Mir, hoping to find some clue that would help her stop the summoning ritual. But as her finger touched the painting surface, the painting hissed in protest, and suddenly an image of the Naga goddess appeared before her, demanding answers. Mir's eyes blazed with anger as she demanded to know why she had been summoned. But she remained in the room to listen to Xanthia's explanation. With a deep breath, Xanthia explained the cultist's plan to sacrifice innocent lives in order to appease Mir and gain her favor. To her surprise, Mir seemed horrified by the actions and promised to put an end to the madness. She vanished back into the painting and suddenly had as she appeared, leaving Xanthia alone in the dimly lit dungeon. But that's not true. Mir is right here and only wants to talk. And what business do you have with me, mortal? Bows down before the queen, the goddess of the underworld. Sorry to bother you, but do you know that your disciples are summoning demons? I am well aware of the power of my voice, mortal, but what makes you think you have the right to interfere with my rituals? Apparently she did not like that. End conversation. So, she is just hanging out now. Okay, I'm guessing I can open this door now. Okay. I guess we will solve the puzzles one at a time. That was a very, very quick conversation. Xanthia reached in her pocket and pulled out a small ornate key. She inserted the key into the lock of the heavy oaken door on the north wall, feeling a satisfying click as she turned it. The door slowly slung open, revealing a dark room beyond. Xanthia hesitated for a moment, listening carefully to the sounds coming from within. She heard nothing but faint flutters of moth wings. She drew her swords and stepped into the room, blades at the ready. As she entered, she saw the room was empty, save for a few cobwebs. Cool. I guess this is the door we will tackle first. Let's see. This is the mirror image, so Proloth is first. Take Proloth. I believe that is the correct answer. With a deep breath, Xanthia reaches out and pulls out the runestone labeled Proloth from its slot in the ornate stone door on the east wall. As she does so, a sense of unease washes over her. The runestone seems to fill her with malice, as she feels an overwhelming urge to use it for dark and twisted purpose. Xanthia holds the runestone tightly in her hand, trying to resist its influence. She knows that the forces at work in this dungeon are powerful, and that the runestone may be more than just a simple object. Despite the malice that fills her, Xanthia refuses to let go of the runestone. She is determined to uncover its secrets and use it to defeat the cultist Amir. With a determined glint in her eye, she takes a few steps back from the ornate door and prepares to move forward into the unknown. Okay, now I need to remember where the Proloth statue is, and it is there. We will go take the Proloth runestone to the Proloth statue. Insert runestone. Dun 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 dun. Dun 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 dun. Xanthia approaches the statue of Proloth, holding the Proloth runestone tightly in her hand. As she inserts the runestones into the empty slot carved in the folds of Proloth's robe, she feels a sense of relief wash over her. The runestone slots in perfectly, and a soft chanting fills her ears, emanating from within the statue. The sound was soothing, almost hypnotic, and she felt her worries melt away as she focused on it. Suddenly, a blinding light filled the room, and Xanthia felt energy course through her body. She knew that she had made the right choice, and that the runestone had imbued her with powers beyond her wildest dreams. She wondered what other secrets this dungeon held and what other challenges lay ahead of her. But for now, she was content knowing that she had taken the first step towards fulfillment of her quest. Okay. There's where I'm going to go for Argoth. So take Argoth. Boom, 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 boom. Xanthia's hand trembles slightly as she reaches for the ruined stone labeled Argoth in the ornate stone door on the east wall. As she pulls it free, a sudden rush of hope fills her, and she feels a sense of peace wash over her. The ruined stone glows softly in her hands, emanating a warm and comforting light that seems to banish the darkness of the dungeon. Xanthia takes a deep breath, feeling the renewed and strengthened by the power of the runestone. She knows that the forces of Mir are strong, but with this runestone in her possession, she feels that she can overcome anything. Xanthia clutches the runestone tightly, vowing to use its power for good. With a newfound sense of determination, Xanthia strides forward through the dungeon, her head held high and her heart filled with hope. She is ready for whatever challenges lay ahead, confident that she has the strength and courage to overcome. And that goes in the Argoth statue. Dun, 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 dun. Xanthia pulls the Argoth runestone from her pouch and gazed at it for a moment, admiring the intricate carvings etched into the surface. Taking a deep breath, she carefully inserted the runestone in the empty slot nestled between the statue of Lie's folded hands. To her relief, the runestone slotted in perfectly. as if it had been made to fit into that very spot. Xanthia couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction and accomplishment as she stepped back to admire her work. As she studied the statue once more, Xanthia noticed something changed. A faint glow emanated from the ruined stone and spread outwards, sufficing the entire statue with a gentle aura of light. She couldn't quite explain it, but Xanthia felt a sense of peace and reassurance wash over her as she basked in the statue's radiance. And one more, we need to take Lithe. And I believe Lithe's statue is a long way off, if I'm correct. If my memory is good. Xanthia pulls the ruined stone label Lithe from the ornate stone door on the east wall. As she does so, a sudden wave of exhaustion washes over her, draining her energy and leaving her feel weak and frail. The ruined stone in her hand seems to pulse with a dark and malevolent energy, sapping her of vitality with each passing moment. Xanthia grits her teeth, determined to hold on to the ruined stone despite the drain it is causing. She knows that the power of Mir's cultists is strong, but she refuses to be defeated. Even as the ruined stone continues to take its toll on her, Xanthia remains resolute, determined to find a way out of this dungeon and put an end to the cultist scheme. With every step forward, she feels the weight of the ruined stone dragging her down, but Xanthia refuses to give up. She knows that she must keep moving forward no matter how difficult that path may be. I believe Lithe is all the way down there, so... Okay, so this way... This way, this way, this way, and this way. And there's our statue of Lithe. Dun, dun, dun. Let's see what happens. Xanthia reaches into her pack and produces the Lithe ruined stone, examining it for a moment before carefully inserting it into the empty slot on the statue's boots. The ruined stone slides in smoothly and clicks into place with a satisfying sound. As soon as the ruined stone was in place, the statue's arm shifted, pointing in the direction of the ornate stone door where Xanthia had found the ruined stones. She could feel a faint humming energy emanating from the statue, almost as if it was alive. Xanthia couldn't help but feel a sense of excitement and anticipation well up inside her. She had no idea what lay beyond the door, but she knew that it was important, and that this was a step towards completing her mission. She took one last look at the statue of Lithe as a strong and powerful king before returning to make her way back through the dungeon, following the guidance of the pointing arm. And now back we go. Dun 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 dun. Please don't nix me for copyright infringement for that, YouTube. And now we can enter this door. Ooh, spooky. It's the snakes. Xanthia stood still, staring at the summoning circle that was painted in blood, her eyes tracing every intricate line of the symbol that had been carefully drawn. The circle seemed to pulse with an otherworldly energy, and Xanthia could feel her heart rate quicken as she examined it. She wondered who or what had been summoned here before, and what kind of dark magic had been used to make this circle so powerful. As she looked closer, Xanthia noticed that the blood used to paint the circle was not fresh, but had been here for some time. She tried to shake off the eerie feeling that was creeping up her spine, but she couldn't help feeling that something was watching her from the shadows. Xanthia knew that she needed to be on high alert as she continued her mission to stop the cultists and their goddess. Alright, you can interact. Dun, dun, dun. Not a single bookcase either, sneaker. Xanthia approached the summoning circle with caution, her hands hovering over it hesitantly. When she finally touched it, she felt a chill run down her body. The blood still felt wet to the touch, indicating that the circle had been recently used. She could almost feel the dark energy emanating from the circle, and she knew that whoever or whatever had been summoned here was not something to be taken lightly. She wondered if the cultists had managed to summon their goddess Mir, and what that would mean for her mission. Xanthia took a deep breath and steeled herself for what was ever to come, knowing that she needed to stay focused and alert if she was to stop the cultists from their nefarious plans. All right, time to deal with these snakes, I guess. You will get all the bookcases on your next run. Xanthia stood before the small snake statue, as her eyes transfixed on its beauty. The scales were expertly carved, each one reflecting the dim light of the dungeon in a mesmerizing pattern. She had seen many statues throughout her travels, but this one was different. It seemed to have a life of its own, as if the snake was about to slither right off the pedestal and into her hand. As she gazed at the statue, a faint whispering sound filled the air. Xanthia couldn't make out what was being said, but she could tell it was coming from the statue itself. She reached out to touch it, but hesitated. There was something about this statue that made her uneasy. Suddenly, a thought came to her. This was not just any statue. It was part of a sequence, one of 4, that had to be collected in order to unlock the next area of the dungeon. Xanthia quickly made her a mental note of the other items she had found and their corresponding locations. She knew that she had to be careful and not miss anything else, or risk being trapped in this cursed place forever. That wasn't that good of a hint. I like the snakes. The snakes are fun, and they're kind of pretty. Xanthia was mesmerized by the intricate detail of the small snake statue. The curves and contours of the serpent's body were expertly carved and polished, giving it a lifelike appearance. She had seen many statues in her travel, but this one was different. It seemed to radiate a strange energy that she couldn't quite put her finger on. As she continued to stare at the statue, she noticed that there was something etched into the base, a symbol that she recognized from her studies. The symbol represented the ancient order of the serpents, a group of powerful mages who were rumored to have unlocked the secrets of serpent magic. Xanthia realized that the statue was no ordinary trinket. It was likely part of a sequence of items that were needed to unlock some secret within the dungeon. She made a mental note of the symbol and continued her explorations onward. Great. That was also not very useful of a hint. I just know that they're a sequence right now, but no order indicated. Xanthia couldn't help but pause in front of the small snake statue. The expertly carved scales shimmered in the dim light, and the emerald eyes seemed to glint with a hidden knowledge. As she gazed at the statue, she noticed the scales seemed to form a pattern, a winding shape that seemed to connect it to some of the others, something else in the dungeon. Was this statue part of a larger puzzle? Suddenly, the sound of slithering echoed through the room, and Xanthia turned to face a group of cultists. They hissed and lunged forward, ready to defend their sacred place. With a quick flick of her wrist, Xanthia brandished her legendary scimitar and prepared for battle. But even as she fought off the cultists, her mind kept returning to the beautiful snake statue. It was almost as if it was calling out to her, hinting at the deeper mysteries hidden within these dark walls. I do not know this order. So many secrets, so little time. Xanthia's gaze lingered on the snake statue before her eyes tracing the intricate details of the expertly carved scales and the serpentine curves of its body. The expert craftsmanship was impeccable, and the stone almost seemed to come alive under her scrutiny. As she studied it further, a faint aura emanates from the statue as if it is imbued with some sort of enchantment. Suddenly, a thought strikes Xanthia. This statue must be part of something greater. Its beauty and power hint at a deeper purpose within this dungeon. She begins to search the room for any signs that could lead her to the companion pieces, wondering what kind of magic they might hold when reunited. As she continued to search, Xanthia can't shake off the feeling that she's onto something big. The intricacies of the statue's design and its powerful aura are not to be dismissed lightly. They must be clues of something significant, but what exactly, she isn't sure. I do not know this order. So I will have to be extra careful. Or cheat. One of the two. Xanthia's fingers grazed the surface of the small snake statue. As she felt a jolt of energy course through her body as she makes contact, the scales of the serpent are cool to the touch, but as she continues to pet it, she notices a subtle shift in the stone. Suddenly, the snake slithers against her hand, its movement fluid and lifelike. Xanthia recoils in surprise, watching in awe as the stone creature comes to life. The serpent glides across her hand, its scales brushing against her skin before returning to its original position as a statue. Xanthia is left stunned by what has just occurred, wondering if it's some kind of trick or if the statue is truly imbued with magic. She takes a moment to examine the carvings more closely, searching for any clues that may reveal the secrets of its enchantment. As she does, she can't help but wonder what other surprises this dungeon may have in store for her. We will go touch another snake statue. Snake statue. Say that 10 times fast. Xanthia reached out to touch the small snake statue, her fingers brushing lightly over the smooth scales. As she did so, something strange happened. The statue seemed to come to life. The stone shifted and changed until a real snake slithered across her hand. It was surprisingly warm and soft, and Xanthia couldn't help but smile as she gently petted it with her other hand. But just as quickly as it come to life, the snake turned back into a statue. Xanthia blinked in surprise and wondered if she had imagined the whole thing. She reached out to touch the statue again, but this time it remained still and unresponsive. With a shrug, Xanthia continued on through the dungeon, her mind buzzing with excitement. She knew that this small encounter with a snake was just the beginning of a much larger mystery, one that she was determined to solve no matter what dangers lay ahead. Snakes. Good old snakes. I will touch every phobia in this game, I am sure. So I hope you're not scared of anything. Xanthia took a deep breath and slowly extended her hands towards the small snake statue. As her fingertips brushed against its smooth surface, she felt a sudden chill run up her arm. But then, to her surprise, the snake slithered against her hands as if it was being pet. Xanthia let out a small gasp, but quickly regained her composure. She carefully ran her fingers along the snake's back, feeling the intricacies of the carving. The snake seemed to react to her touch, moving ever so slightly in her response. After a few moments, the snake returned to its statue form once again. Xanthia pulled her hand back, feeling a sense of both awe and unease. She couldn't shake the feeling that there was something more to the statue than met the eye. Nonetheless, she knew that she had to continue on and find the remaining items before it was too late. And how about this guy? Did I get the sequence right? By guessing. Or is it going to bite me? Which is it? Ooh. I got it right. As Xanthia's fingers brushed against the small snake statue, she felt something strange happen. The statue seemed to come to life, and the snake slithered against her hand as if it were alive. She was startled at first, but then realized that this must be some kind of enchanted statue. Suddenly, all the other snake statues in the room started to come to life as well. They writhed and twisted, their eyes glowing with an otherworldly light. Xanthia could feel a sense of danger in the air as the statues moved towards the summoning circle. She knew that she had to act fast. She reached out for a legendary scimitar and longsword, ready to defend herself against whatever was about to be summoned. She braced herself for the worst as the statues converged on the circle, their movements being more frantic and erratic by the second. But it was too late. The demon had already been summoned, and Xanthia would have to fight for her life if she hoped to survive this encounter. And talk or fight? You will talk. Oh, hello there, Smirk. Are you lost? Yes. Hopelessly lost. What is this place? This, my dear, is a dungeon. Giggles. A place where dark secrets and ancient rituals are hidden. And did I just summon you with one of those rituals? Ah. Yes, you did, Smiles, but I must say, you could use a little more practice on your summoning skills. Does this mean that you are bound to me? Well, technically, you are the one who summoned me. So you could say that, Wink. But I think it's more accurate to say that I am here to serve a certain purpose. And what purpose is that? That is for me to know and you to find out, Giggles. But don't worry, I'm sure that we'll have plenty of time to get to know one another better. Why would we have lots of time to get to know one another? Good old NPC conversations. Oh, come on, OpenAI. You haven't. Okay. Smirks. Well, I just assumed that you'd be staying here for a while. After all, it's not easy to leave once you're down here in this dungeon. Chuckles. But don't worry, I'll make sure you enjoy your stay. I could be having so much more fun by reading that in a seductive voice, but whatever. Good old succubi. I think I want to leave the dungeon now. Oh, I'm sorry, but I'm afraid that's not possible. You see, it is my duty to protect this place and those who belong to the cult of Mir. Smile. But don't worry, I promise to keep you safe while you're down here. And what is safe? I mean, I won't let anything any harm come to you, unless, of course, you try to do something foolish. So why not relax and enjoy the pleasures of the dungeon while you're down here, while you're here. Wink. The pleasures of the dungeon? What are you talking about? Dun, dun, dun. Lass. Oh, there are many pleasures to be found in the dungeon. The thrill of danger, the excitement of exploring, the satisfaction of solving puzzles, and the joy of discovering hidden treasures. And let's not forget the pleasures of simply being in the company of a charming demon like myself, Smirks. But I must warn you, not everyone who comes down here is able to handle all the pleasures that the dungeon has to offer. Well, I have had fun solving the puzzles of this dungeon. I'm glad that to hear you've enjoyed yourself so far. It's always good to see someone who appreciates the beauty and complexity of puzzles we have here. Perhaps I could show you some of the more challenging ones if you're up for it, Smiles. But be warned, they can be quite difficult. Oh, do you have a puzzle for me to solve? I love puzzles. I do love puzzles. Yes, I do have puzzles in mind, but before I show you, you must promise me not to tell anyone else about it. It's a secret puzzle known only to the members of the Cult of Mir. Are you ready to take on the challenge? Absolutely. Although I can't spell worth a darn. This conversation is going nowhere. Prepare for battle. Oh. But I wanted to solve more puzzles. Now you're just gonna make me murder you. That makes me sad. Yep, that was the 15-line limit. And now I do have to loot this body. Don't think we're going to get all the way through this dungeon. Xanthia approached the slain demon's bodies, its grotesque form still twitching slightly. With practiced ease, she began to search the creature's pockets and pouches, her fingers brushing over several vials and murky fluids and a handful of small runes before she finally finds out what she's looking for: a summoning book. As she flips through its pages, she realizes that there's more than just dark magic contained within its bindings. The book also contains information on summonings and binding spirits of light, as well as detailed instructions on how to create protective wards against demonic forces. Pleased with her find, Xanthia tucks the book into her bag and turns her attention to the demon's other possessions. She finds a pair of mystical leather pants that had been hidden beneath the creature's armor. They are shimmering in the flickering torchlight, their surface smooth to the touch. Xanthia grins in satisfaction as she slips them over her own rough, woven leather leggings. The pants seem to mold themselves perfectly to her form, offering protection and flexibility in equal measures. Satisfied with her loot, Xanthia departs from the room and continues on her quest deeper into the dungeon. And nice, mystical purple legs. That's actually a pretty good find in the dungeon. All right, and if we look in our inventory, we've got a nice, awesome summoning book that hums with power and energy. But there is magic that prevents it from being opened. Good times. All right, we will go to this door and do the whole touch live thing. This one has been solved on live streams many times. We will see how the AI does it describing it. Xanthia's hand made contact with the door labeled live. A sharp pain shot through her fingertips. She quickly withdrew her hand, inspecting it to find a small cut on her palm. Though the injury was minor, it refused to stop bleeding, staining her leather armor with dark droplets. Xanthia couldn't help but wonder if the blood was necessary for opening the door or if it was some sort of curse. She made a mental note to find a place to offer the blood before continuing her journey. Carefully wrapping her hand in the cloth, she took one last look at the door labeled live before turning away to plan her next move. And the altar, I believe, was there. Yep. Okay, we will go back to the altar. Because everyone should know this puzzle by now if they've been watching the streams. Xanthia's hand was covered in a small amount of blood from her earlier investigation of the altar. Without thinking, she reached out to touch the granite surface once again. As her hand made contact, the blood on her hand leapt from her fingers and began to flow down into the altar, gathering in the shallow basin at the bottom. Xanthia watched in horror as the blood continued to pour from her hands, filling the basin to the brim. The candles flickered erratically, as if it responded to the sudden influx of blood. It was clear that something had been triggered by her touch, and Xanthia knew that this could only mean trouble. She quickly withdrew her hand, but the damage had already been done. The altar now glowed with an eerie energy, and Xanthia knew that it was time to find a way out of this dungeon before it was too late. Great idea, Xanthia. Let's get out of here. I am done with this dungeon. And now we need to touch Argoth. Dun, 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 dun. But there's been a new puzzle shown today. As Xanthia's hand made contact with the door marked Argoth, she felt a warm, calming sensation spread through her body. Looking down, she noticed that the small cut in her palm had been completely healed, leaving no trace of injury behind. The door seemed to have some sort of healing magic embedded in it, and Xanthia wondered what other secrets it held. She made a note to come back to this door later with an offering of some sort to see if she could unlock its full potential. For now, she took a step back from the door, feeling refreshed and rejuvenated, and from the unexpected healing magic. With newfound energy, she turned her attention back to the other doors, wondering what other surprises awaited her in this dungeon. And the fountain is right here. Good times. Good times. Xanthia approached the fountain and held out her glowing hand, letting the light leap from her fingertips to radiate through the water. As the glowing energy spread throughout the fountain, the water began to glow as well as illuminate the room in a soft ethereal light. For a moment, Xanthia felt a surge of power coursing through her veins. She had never seen her hand glow so brightly before, and she wondered what other surprises it might hold. But as the glowing faded and the water returned to its normal state, Xanthia shook her head and refocused on her task at hand. She couldn't afford to get lost in curiosity or distraction. The cult of Samir needed to be stopped, and she was the only one who could do it. With renewed determination, Xanthia turned and continued on her journey through the dungeon. And now we will touch Proloth. Because we have to. As Xanthia's hand made contact with the door labeled Proloth, she felt a sudden pain shoot through her arm. Looking down, she saw that her fingertips had turned black, as if the door had imbued her with some sort of dark magic within her. Though the damage was minimal, Xanthia could feel the malice spreading throughout her body. She quickly withdrew her hand, hoping that the damage wouldn't spread any further. It was clear that this door had some sort of malevolent power, and Xanthia knew not to touch it again without knowing how to properly counteract its effects. She made a mental note to find a place to offer up a sacrifice of malice in order to appease the power behind the door. With a cautious step backwards, Xanthia turned to leave the door behind, wondering what other dangers lurked in this dungeon. And I believe it is down there. 2 down. And there is the thing. Touch enchanted. Maybe I should drink. Drink from the cursed fountain? It's a good idea, right? Xanthia's black hand touched the surface of the dark liquids, and as it did, the blackness seemed to leap from her hand and into the pool. Suddenly, the fountain began to steam, releasing a foul stench into the air. Xanthia stepped back, wary of whatever might happen next. As the steam cleared, she saw that the pool had changed. The liquid was no longer black, but silver, shimmering in the dim light of the dungeon. She couldn't help but feel a sense of relief wash over her as she realized that her touch had purged the corruption from the fountain. But she knew that her journey wasn't over, that there's still much work to be done if she was going to stop the cultist's dark ritual. And it's all pretty now. Sure, let's drink some mercury. That'll go well. And now this door is open. Any guesses on what we're going to find inside? Other than a bunch of archers. Oof. I don't want to fight archers. Oh, they've snared me in place. You get a burn, and you get a burn then. Now I'm no longer snared in place. And you get to burn. And you can burn, and you can burn. And then I will move up to you and take you out. And that's probably going to be enough to kill you. Stab and burn. Yay, they're all gone. And now we have angel statues. Good old angel statues. What could these be? Xanthia's gaze is drawn to a small angelic statue. Its delicate hands clasped in prayer, a sense of expression on its face. A serene expression on its face. The stone is... Learn to read, Wexler. The stone is made of seems to glow with an inner light, casting a soft, ethereal glow around it. The details of the carving are exquisite. Every feather of the angel's wings and every strand of hair is carefully etched with precision and skill. Xanthia can't help but appreciate the beauty of the statue, even in this dark and sinister place. She runs her fingers over the smooth surface of the stone, marveling at how something so lovely could exist in a dungeon filled with death and darkness. For a moment, she forgets about her mission and loses herself in the tranquility of the statue's peaceful expression. All right, we will just interact, because that seems safe. As Anthea's fingers trace the contour of the small angelic statue, she feels a sudden prickling sensation on her skin. She looks down to see that her hand has begun to bleed. Blood trickling down from her fingers is coating the surface of the statue in crimson. The stone begins to grow warm to the touch, and Xanthia can feel a strange energy emanating from it. Suddenly, the angelic statue begins to twist and contort, its features warping into something twisted and demonic. The once beautiful carving now drips with Xanthia's blood, and she can feel a sense of dread washing over her as she realizes that something dark and malevolent has been awakened within the statue. She quickly withdraws her hand, watching in horror as the demonic statue pulsates with an unnerving energy. And we now have a demonic statue, although it did not change down here. Bug number 3 of the day. I'll just go ahead and interact with all the other statues and slowly bleed to death, because that sounds like a fun outcome. Xanthia approached the small angelic statue with caution, her hand reaching out slowly to touch its smooth surface. As her fingers made contact, a sudden sharp pain shoots through her hand, causing her to recoil in shock. Looking down, she saw that her hand was bleeding, the blood slowly clothing the statue's surface. To her horror, the statue began to change before her eyes, its features contorting into a twisted demonic form. Xanthia could feel the dark energy emanating from it, and she knew that she had made a grave mistake in touching it. The statue seemed to mock her, its twisting grin sending shivers down her spine. Xanthia quickly withdrew her hand, clutching it tightly to her chest. She knew that she needed to be more careful in this dungeon. The slightest mistake could have deadly consequences. All right, 2 are now taken care of, and I am bleeding profusely. But what could go wrong? What could go wrong? Xanthia reached out to touch one of the small angelic statues before, hoping that it might offer some clue to help her in the cultist summoning rituals, but her fingers brushed against the smooth surface of the statue. A sudden pain shot through her hand. Looking down, she saw that her palm was bleeding, the blood slowly coating the statue in crimson droplets. Before her eyes, the statue began to change, its features twisting and warping into something altogether more sinister. The previous serene face now twisted into a snarling demonic visage, its wings spreading out to reveal jagged, razor-sharp edges. Xanthia recoiled in horror, pulling her hand away from the now demonic statue. But even as she did so, she could feel the blood still oozing from her wounded palm. The transformation was complete, and she knew that she had to be more careful than ever before. All right, last statue. Zuko is not happy by this room. Xanthia gingerly touches the small angelic statue, only to feel a sharp pain in her hand as it begins to bleed. The bleed flows from her hand, slowly coating the statue in crimson. Before she can react, the statue begins to transform before her eyes, its form contorting and twisting until it becomes a demonic statue. The bleeding from Xanthia's hand continues now, flowing more fiercely as the demonic statue joins its siblings in the room. As if triggered by the presence of the blood, the statues begin to pulse with an ominous energy. The blood from each statue begins to flow towards the summoning circle in the center of the room, where it begins to coalesce into a pool of blood. Slowly, the pool begins to take shape and form until a demon materializes from within it, snarling and snapping its jaws hungrily. Xanthia raises her weapons, ready for battle. And I am not going to bother talking. I'm just going to go ahead and fight, because I've got bleeds on me, and any time spent messing with this demon is not a good idea. Apparently, she's just going to let me pepper her from range. There we go. Oof. Owies. Oh, you're easy. Victory and pot. And I still have 50 minutes on these bleeds. I need to loot this corpse, though. Dun, dun, dun. And we are 5 minutes from having to stop. So if you have any questions, now would be the time to ask. Xanthia approached the dead summoned cube demon, her eyes scanning its body for anything of value. She quickly spotted a small cube-shaped object lying beside it and recognized it as a summoning cube. She picked it up and examined it, noting that the intricate designs and the power emanating from within. As she continued to search the creature's bodies, her gaze fell upon a mystical leather helm. She reached out and took hold of it, testing its weight and examining its craftsmanship. It was clearly enchanted, and Xanthia knew that it would provide valuable protection for future battles. Satisfied with her loot, Xanthia tucked the summoning cube and mystical leather helm into her pack and prepared to move on. She knew that there were still many dangers ahead, but she needed to stay focused if she was to complete her mission and stop the cultists of Mir's sinister plan. So that was 2 rooms, and there's 1 room we haven't gotten to, but I don't believe we have the time in 4 minutes to solve that puzzle. Although I guess I could try. Maybe another useful feature would be quick travel. Take me to that room. This room probably has one. If you're wondering, I'll just go do it. Don't push the red button. Pushing the red button is a bad idea. Xanthia approached the locked heavy steel door on the south wall, her hand reaching out to touch the cold metal surface. As soon as her fingertips made contact, a sudden and intense burning sensation surged through her hand, causing her to yelp in pain. She tried to pull her hand back, but it was as if the door itself had seized hold of it, refusing to let go. The flames continued to spread across her skin, licking hungrily at her flames. Xanthia gritted her teeth and dug deep, using her assassin training to keep from crying out in agony. Her eyes narrowed in determination as she focused on the task, finding a way through this cursed dungeon and putting an end to the cultists of Mir's dark and twisted rituals. She knew that this was the only way to succeed, was to push through the pain and keep moving forward. And it's just a flaming hand. I don't know what's so exciting about a flaming hand. I probably should drink a pot, though. Now that I have 5 dots ticking on me for a long time. Dun, dun, dun. Xanthia moved closer to the unlit brazier and reached out to touch it. As her hand touched the cold metal, she closed her eyes and took a deep breath, focusing her thoughts on the task at hand. With a flicker of her wrist, flames erupted from her hand and spread across the brazier, igniting its fuel. The sudden burst of light and heat caught Xanthia off guard, and she stumbled backwards slightly before regaining her composure. The flames danced and flickered inside the brazier, casting long shadows across the room. Xanthia watched the fire for a moment, mesmerized by the beauty, but her focus quickly shifted back to her mission. She knew that time was of the essence, and she couldn't afford to waste any more of it. With a determined look on her face, she turned towards the heavy steel door on the south wall and began to make her way towards it, her legendary scimitar and longsword at the ready. Oof. These dots are strong. Ignite. Please no. Please no fire elementals. I don't want to die. Oh. Xanthia took a step closer to the unlit golden brazier, her hand reaching out towards it. As her fingers brushed against the cold metal surface, she closed her eyes and focused her mind on the flames within her. With a quick prayer to the gods of fire, She willed a spark to form on the tip of her fingers. The spark leapt from her fingers and landed into the empty brazier with a soft hiss. Suddenly, the sparks transformed into a fiery inferno that consumed the entire brazier in seconds. The flame danced and crackled, illuminating the room with a warm glow. However, as Xanthia opened her eyes, she saw that something was wrong. The fire had grown too large and too wild. It had taken on a life of its own and began to move towards her, coalescing into a shape. With shock and horror, Xanthia realized that she had not only lit the brazier, but also summoned a fire elemental in the process. She quickly braced herself for the coming battle, knowing that she would need to defeat the elemental if she hoped to continue her quest. And I'm gonna die. But I'll drink a pot. And hope for the best. Faster. Oof. I need the pot to come off cooldown before I die. I believe I need to light that one too, but I'm gonna die if I do. So I think this is orange, yeah. Hey. So now I need to get time to pass without dying. Wait, the purity mountain's right here somewhere, right? 2 rooms away. I don't know. I think I'm gonna die. Yep. The puzzle got me, and we'll have to stop there. The purity fountain was 2 stops away. But puzzle got me. Puzzle got me. Oh. Anyway, we'll have to stop there. If you guys have any questions, now would be the time to ask. And I will make note of the 3 bugs that we found, which is always fun. So we have the loot bubbles should not reset on a reset, because that's a bad thing. We had the pathing issue, and then what was the other one? Now I'm forgetting. It'll come back to me. But yeah, so we did not quite make it through the dungeon. So coming up, I've got the last quality of life improvement, which is loot all. Beyond that, I've got obviously more bug fixes as they come up, but focus beyond that will be expanding the level generation even further. This includes breaking the tokens that build the map down into even smaller pieces. What I mean by that is essentially the 3 doors and the altar and their 2 fountains all is essentially 1 token right now. It's a very big token, obviously. And that always goes into a level together. The idea now will be to break that out to saying, okay, the 3 doors needs the 3 doors is a token itself, and then there would be a separate token for Argoth, a separate token for Lithe, and a separate token for Proloth. And then the level builder would be able to take the 3 doors and those 3 tokens and put them all into the dungeon as their own unique pieces. That's just an example. By doing that, it allows the level builder to generate a wider variety of potentials. It's not just, hey, it's the 3 doors with the fountain and the altar and the 2 fountains. It might be, hey, it's the 3 doors and a Lithe statue and a Proloth book and an Argoth fountain, as an example. So wider variety, and then that just cascades as you get into more and more general objects as well. So the three doors is obviously a very specific thing with lore, and it will always have Lithe, Argoth, and Proloth, but more generic things like the flaming door might just say, I have to go light 4 things that I can light on fire with my debuff. And then, so right now it's just braziers, but maybe it's forges or fires or any number of things that you could light on fire with that debuff, and you would just have to go figure out what needs to be lit. So more variety, more diversity. And then as the AI learns how to work with those smaller tokens, it will be able to produce an even wider swath of possibilities. So the goal is to accomplish that and start working on creating some of the starter dungeons to introduce people to the puzzles instead of throwing them straight into the deep end and solving these super hard puzzles, which is not the intent. Build up to that. Also want to be able to give people pots, because the dungeons are very difficult until you manage to get potions. So that's what's coming up in the next week or so. Also, for people that are watching this either live or on replay, probably going to be opening the DoD2 public alpha probably in 2 to 3 weeks. Essentially, what I need to do for that is get the leveling working, like write those starter dungeons, and make it so people can actually generate their own custom avatar. And that's kind of the feature set, other than working on the bugs to get it done. If you would like access to the DoD now, all you have to do is be a patron. Link is in the description below, which is always fun. If you want to be part of the public alpha, all you need to do is join Discord and ping me, Falados, for an alpha key. Whew, those are long-winded answers. But that's okay. Any other questions before I shut the stream down? I hope people like the animations. It's just like a pretty simple effect, but adding the animations bring life to the world a little bit. And I'll continue to add more, like dripping water in the fountains. I was going to do a spinning thing around the summoning circle, but we never even got to the one that was active. The loot bubbles will also be helpful when you've already looted some of them, but new monster comes in because of a summons, and then you kill it. So it's like you now know which ones you've looted and which ones you haven't, which was the idea behind the loot bubbles. And everyone loves bubbles. Bubbles. Good old bubbles. Anyway, thanks for coming out tonight, everyone. And catch you on the flip side in a couple weeks, or possibly every day if you happen to be people that are testing and finding bugs and helping me make this game awesome.